Run.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of On the Run. And once again, I have Ben Blaschke, Managing Editor of IAG with us. Hi Ben.
Hi Andrew, good to hear your croaky voice today after our mad last night.
Yes, there was some alcohol partaken of, and there was lots of talking and yelling and screaming and happiness, which we have at MAD. So you're going to have to put up with my croaky voice. Ben, you're going to have to carry me a little bit today.
No problem at all. Well, I mean, the reason for Andrew's croaky voice is because we held our Manila After Dark last night at Akata Manila. Thank you to Akata for hosting us in our Luna Lounge. Great new venue. First time we've held a MAD there in a particular location at Akata Manila. Absolutely amazing night. More than 200 guests. VIP guest Mr. Alejandro Tanco, of course, the chairman and CEO of PAGCOR, was there to say greetings and to give a speech. But he hung around for a little while too and was just quite enjoying the evening. I think it was a great event.
We'll have to let you in a little secret. He said he had to go at 7:30, but he didn't go at 7:30. He stayed for a lot longer than that, didn't he?
He did, absolutely. And look, all the feedback we got last night was wonderful. It was our largest MAD ever, be that Manila or Macau. And it was our 22nd MAD, so that says something about how successful last night was. And I think it says a lot about the appetite of the Philippines industry too for this great growth we're seeing in the Philippines, which is where we are now.
MAD 23 next week.
Yep, MAD 23, Sofitel at Pont 16 in Macau. Looking forward to returning to Macau, our first MAD Macau of 2024, whatever year we're in now. I almost said 23. First Macau After Dark of 2024. So looking forward to catching up with all of our Macau friends next week.
It's going to be great. It's great to have had to get the first two MADs for the year under our belt. And, of course, it gets busier and busier as the year moves on. Well, let's talk about the top 10 for this week. Start off with Nagasaki. It's all over for Nagasaki.
Yeah, I mean, after the central government, of course, rejected Nagasaki's bid a few months back, there was talk that Nagasaki was going to put in a protest. I think through, what do they call it, the complaint review system was the process they were going to take. But I think they've decided it's pretty much all too hard, and I think they realised that any process they started again would have to pretty much start from scratch, potentially find a new site, potentially find a new partner. That's a long process in Japan, so I think in the end they've thrown their hands in the air and said, okay, we're at.
The words they used were extremely difficult, which means no in Japanese. And look, what a mess. I mean, we were critical of them all the way through. We thought that Oshidori should have won the bid. I mean, some comments on that?
Well, we were probably in a privileged position to see all of the design concepts, the IR concepts for Nagasaki.
Well, we published them all.
We did, yeah. Look, and there was no doubt the Oshidori design concept was far superior. It was quite incredible, actually. It was very, very impressive. Now, why didn't I get selected? I mean, you've written a lengthy series on what went on in that process, somewhat questionable at times. So, Look, I think we had doubts over Nagasaki from day one. The fact that it hasn't come to fruition, probably not a big surprise.
Yeah, I mean, they really screwed it up, let's be honest. Anyway, so that leaves Bill Hornbuckle and MGM Resorts International with a monopoly in Japan.
Look, hasn't it been a good 12 months or so for MGM? Yeah. Good news from Vegas to Macau to Japan. And we'll talk a bit about some other initiatives too of MGM very shortly. Look, wonderful for MGM. Obviously, they will be the sole IR with a casino operator in Japan, in Osaka. Great location, scheduled to open in 2030. We'll see exactly what year it does open, but looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
And on the subject of MGM, moving on to number 9, Bill Hornbuckle eyeing Dubai and Abu Dhabi made some interesting comments this week.
Well, look, I think there was some media reports recently that were slightly off, suggesting that MGM had decided not to put a casino in Dubai. In fact, the plan is hopefully to one day put a casino there. Of course, they're building some hotels that they're involved in Dubai. Actually, what Bill Hornbuckle had said previously was, we're opening, but obviously we're going to open without a casino because we don't have any casino license. That's not a reality just yet. But he did say last week in a JP Morgan conference in the US that actually they're looking potentially they'd be happy to have a casino property in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I mean that really depends on which of the Emirates license and first and when and how. So MGM's sort of keeping their options open over there.
And they've got an MGM, a Bellagio, and an Aria, so great brands associated with casinos. And each of the 7 Emirates, it seems, might have the right to have one property. Seems to be the way it's going to go. And he mentioned months, not years, for a development partner.
I think he's thinking months, not years, in terms of the whole process. Obviously they're setting up a regulator over there to put in a regulatory framework. From his comments that he was talking about, that's all happening at quite a rapid rate. And of course, Jim Murren is overseeing that regulator, who has very close ties to MGM, former MGM head man. That's all quite connected over there. So I'm sure Bill is very ear to the ground on what's happening over there, and it sounds like we'll know a lot more within the next 6 months.
And the CEO of the regulator, Kevin Mullally, was the general counsel for GLI for 12, 15 years. Let's move on. Number 8. So Thailand, the deputy finance minister has said it's ready to go, and if approved, will immediately be submitted to cabinet for approval.
Now, isn't it amazing? If you went back 5 years even, you said, will there be casino resorts in Thailand in the near future, or in the United Arab Emirates in the near future? You would have said absolutely not. But here we are, both rocketing forward. Thailand's moving at a very rapid rate now. This is the second House committee that's submitted a study. Of course, there was a change of government in the meantime, which is why we had a second House committee put it through a study. But this, looks like we're now in the review stage of that study, and after that it'll be put through for a final approval, potentially.
Yeah, they've really changed their rhetoric. I mean, it was slowly, and now all of a sudden it's like, we're racing it through. So a lot can happen in a week. Now, number 7. This is funny. Adam Rittenskild. We were talking about him last week. An hour after we recorded On the Run last week in Sydney, we had an interesting thing happen.
Yes, so the Managing Director and CEO of Tabcorp in Australia, of course the racing and wagering giant, long-term giant in the industry in Australia, Adam Rittenskild, he's been in the job for about 2 years, and on the Wednesday last week he gave a keynote talk at regulating the game in Sydney. On Thursday he was, let's say, asked to leave the company for some offensive remarks that he reportedly made sometime in the recent past. Very interesting developments. I think there's a bit of information has come out recently about what those offensive comments were about a Victorian regulator. And I think the amazing thing is that someone in his position should know better than to make comments of that nature. And particularly in the current Australian regulatory landscape, there's really not going to be, nobody's going to put up with anything like that at the moment. So obviously a poor decision on Adam's part has cost him dearly.
Well, all his incentives have been forfeited, that have invested have been forfeited, so it's cost him a lot of money. It's cost him a reputation and a career. Some conspiracy theories that the board may have wanted him to go anyway.
Well, look, we have heard a conspiracy theory that they may have not been particularly impressed with the performance of the company, or may have someone else lined up they think might be a better fit. These are all just pure speculation that we've heard on the grapevine. Yeah. By the way, I heard that the incentives that Adam Rittenskild lost were about $10 million Australian worth, so it's a lot of money. Certainly very, very costly. I've seen a few names have started to be thrown up in the Australian media too around certain bosses of Racing New South Wales and Racing Queensland, and various people around the industry have been thrown up at a potential replacement. I'm pretty sure we'll find out who that is pretty soon.
10 million Australian, so about $2.50 US, yeah. Now, number 6, China at it again, trying to stop their citizens gambling. The Singapore embassy, or the Chinese embassy in Singapore, giving a stern warning not to gamble in Singapore's casinos.
Yeah, well, the share prices didn't take any sort of hit, so I don't think there's too many people concerned that the tough rhetoric is going to make a huge difference. Look, China does this from time to time. They put out statements via their embassies. They've done so in Korea. They've certainly been talking to the Philippines. They've expressed their dissatisfaction in the past, a few other places. So I think this is nothing new. That's the line China's always taken. What impact will it have? Negligible.
I think they're a bit of a toothless tiger in this regard because, first of all, Chinese love to gamble, and they're not really going to listen to it. And there's a lot of may in there. It may be illegal. You may find yourself in trouble. Chinese citizens in Singapore, who, when it's free for them to go to the casino, and there are no legal casinos in China, and they love to gamble, are they really going to take notice? I don't think so.
Unlikely.
Yeah. And moving on to number 5, Bloomberry announced a late May launch for Solaire North. We've been waiting for this for a long time, up in Quezon City.
Yeah, so this was previewed by Enrique Razon a few weeks ago during Bloomberry's results announcement. He suggested it would be late May. Confirmed this week, Bloomberry put out an announcement that Solaire North will be opening in late May. And really looking forward to this. I mean, Solaire and Entertainment City has long been the market leader down there. And I think that this is just going to add to their offering in the Philippines. I'm really looking forward to seeing this property.
See if my voice can hold up. I've got a few comments on this. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me, everyone. So a $1 billion property. They say it's got 38 floors, 526 keys, 2,700 slot machines, a lot of slots, 163 tables. Quite a decent casino, a decent property. Should have great views. It's very tall over the city. But the thing that's really clever, I think, is that Quezon City, its population is 3 million people. Quezon City alone is 3 million people. Out of Metro Manila, 13 million people. And the traffic in Manila is terrible. So he's captured this great big market. It's like opening a casino in a new city, but a city that you already have experience in, and you already know the turf. And Ricky Razon is, he's a big man in the Philippines. So it's going to be profitable from day one, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that. I guess the big question is that will many of the players, we know there's quite a significant portion of players from Quezon City do travel down to Entertainment City to play. So to what extent will that affect the Entertainment City operators? Not just Solaire, but all of them. But as you say, there's a big catchment area up north and further north as well. So, I mean, that's a great play for them, I think.
And people in that area, there's many people there that wouldn't go to Entertainment City that have never seen an integrated resort, never seen anything like that, and they're just going to be blown away by it. They're going to be wowed by it because it is full Solaire quality. Obviously, they're going to be doing that. I mean, Solaire won't do anything but that with putting their name on it. So, interesting times, and it'll be great to see it when it opens in May. All right, moving on to number 4 now. We got some figures, interesting figures from Padcore on the Philippines turnover.
Yeah, look, it was sort of a bit of a breakdown. They don't usually do this Padcore, but they provided some figures that sort of break down the revenue results for the fourth quarter and for full year 23 of all of the licensed operators across the country: Entertainment City, Clark, Cebu. And yeah, I mean, no surprise that, again, Solaire is still the market leader nationwide. It makes the most money of any licensed casino in the country. But some interesting movements. One trend I noticed was that down in Cebu, New Star made a big move in the fourth quarter. If you compare their revenue across the 4 quarters, they're really ramping up quite strongly.
Right.
So that was sort of something that was very, very interesting. And then Royce, we're right here in Han right now, up in Clark, doing this, and Royce just down the road next door had quite a slow start, but it's starting to ramp up as well.
Look, I've got some figures here in front of me. I mean, Solaire, 1.1 billion, 35% of Entertainment City. Okada Manila coming in second with 803 million, 26%. Newport World Resorts, 619 million, 20%. And COD Manila picking up the rear, 572 million at 18%. That adds up to 3.1 billion for the year last year, which is 60% of all gaming in the entire Philippines in those 4 Entertainment City properties. Where we are here, up in Clark, we just came up this afternoon. 498 million, so 10%. So Entertainment City is 6 times as big as Clark, which kind of makes sense. But very interesting, Hahn, where we are here, is 43% of all of Clark. So clearly Hahn, the massive market leader. I guess you could call Hahn the Solaire of Clark. I don't think Solaire would like that.
No, I'm sure they wouldn't. And that's out of there. I think there are 6 casino operators here in Clark, and Hahn comprises 43% of all 6 combined. So that's quite significant. I think the other interesting thing down in Entertainment City is that Okada is still trailing Solaire by some way. The talk has always been, as Okada ramps up, all its rooms are open now, that it will start to close the gap. I think the IT disruption last year probably didn't help those figures, but I'll be interested to see in 12 months' time whether Okada can just start to narrow that gap a little bit.
We're still calling it an IT disruption.
I chose my words carefully.
Yes, D Heights second, by the way, up here in Clark. I've got these figures in front of me here. 142 million for the year. Royce 88, Midori 29, and there you go. It trails away from there. But New Star 99 million for the year. Well done to them.
Yeah, and that was a major jump in Q4. Actually, that was probably the biggest single jump from Q3 to Q4 was down there.
So we can expect them to be well over 100 million next year.
I would imagine so, and we've been down there, and we know that they've been open for a while, but there's still been construction going on, so they're still not completely finished. So as they finish everything and get the property fully operational, I imagine that will jump again.
So over to Macau now, and IAG named lead media production partner for G2E Asia.
Yep, our usual role we've been fulfilling for a number of years, so we'll be organiser, or let's say co-organising, but having a major role in running the conference at G2E Asia, and of course
I think we're saying
producing the conference. Yeah. So on the day, of course, we'll be overseeing operations of the conference and having a significant role again. So look forward to that, and I'm sure it will be a great event. And of course, as usual, we always have a heavy presence on the floor at G2E Asia. We'll have a booth. We'll have most of our team will be there in the booth as well. Our magazines will be heavily distributed across the floor. I'm sure we'll come and say hi to many of you that visit, but if not, please make sure you do come and say hi to us at G2E Asia.
And the first G2E Asia kind of back to the normal pattern, yeah?
Yeah, it feels like it did pre-COVID now. We've got one G2E Asia this year, which is great, and we've got it back in Macau. So a little bit more of the pattern everybody got used to for a decade beforehand.
Tip?
Yes, of course. IAG will be hosting the industry party on the Wednesday evening, the 5th of June, I believe it is, at MGM Cotai at the Vista. So look forward to that again. Make sure that if you're at G2E Asia, you're in industry, you sponsor the event, be part of the event. If you sponsor the event, you can invite your friends and colleagues. And
customers.
And customers, of course, even more importantly. So great event to be part of. It really is a big, very important industry event supported by the suppliers. And the whole idea of the industry party is to bring the suppliers, bring the operators, bring the industry together for some really important networking.
And it will be very strictly capped at 220 people, not a single person over. And it won't be like a MAD where you can pretty much get in if you know us. It'll be very strictly capped. So please get yourself a ticket either by being a sponsor or getting a sponsor to invite you or something like that. Okay, for the foreigner gaming zones. Foreigner gaming zones didn't work apparently.
No surprise. I never really thought they would.
Nor did I.
I think the concern, Bill Hornbuckle spoke about this as well last week during this JP Morgan conference. Actually, he was largely talking about the chip-in-chip technology that MGM has had in place since 2018, I believe. So basically RFID technology, chip tracking around the casino. They were the first company to spend the money to put this in play. So the reason the foreign-only zones came up is because it's turned out this is quite a good use case for tracking foreign play. You can track every chip movement around the casino. So it came up about that, but one of the things that Bill Hornbuckle mentioned was that, the foreign-only zones were not popular with players that came from Thailand or Malaysia or whatever international country might be, didn't like being told, here's the room that you can gamble in. They want to be able to gamble where they want. This is always going to happen.
Of course.
Yeah, so Hornbuckle's sort of just giving us colour as to what we expected. No surprise whatsoever. But very interesting about the chip-in-chip and the RFID, because that's a big issue in Macau at the moment.
Well, we'll have more to say about that later. But, we instantly, the moment that we heard about it, we said that that's not going to work. And Piers Chan interviewed Lam Yutong about this, Lam Yuto, I should say, about this, and from a Chinese perspective, the junket operator, and he said the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think everybody saw the writing on the wall with this idea. Look, I understand this idea of what the government was trying to achieve with foreigner play, like the general concept of bringing in more foreigners and trying to attract that play, giving incentives, potential up to 5% tax break for bringing in foreign play, for revenue on foreign play. It's a perfectly good idea, but sticking people in a room and saying this is where you are is not the way to achieve it.
Technically, levy break rather than tax break, technically. And only 5% of visitors to Macau are foreign anyway, and that number's pretty fixed. So let's move on. Number one, MGM axes the $750 million loan from MGM Resorts. Might think it's surprising to be a number one story, but really what it's about is the recovery of Macau.
Yeah, exactly. This was it seemed like a small, interesting little story. Actually, it is a very, very interesting story, very big story, because in 2022, MGM China is still in the clutches of COVID-19, of course, in Macau, did a deal with its parent company, MGM Resorts.
Because I guess, and this was not the only one, Wynn also did it, and even Sands did it, because they were kind of like, well, maybe the banks wouldn't lend to them, or maybe the banks wouldn't lend to them at reasonable interest rates, and it was getting really scary at the time, wasn't it? I mean, the debt was getting through the roof, and they had to resort to going to their parent companies rather than the banks.
Well, this was November 2022, and even at that stage, I mean, we know that Macau opened 2 months after that, but in November we didn't know that was going to be the case. Yeah. So I'm sure from MGM China's case, it was, we better get a little bit more financial backing here. We don't know how long this is going to go on. So they organised a $750 million loan facility, which they never drew down on, by the way, but they cancelled that this week, pretty much because the recovery has been so stunning. And MGM, of course, MGM China posted record results in Q4 and in full year 23.
Yeah, I mean, they got 262 million adjusted property EBITDA just in the fourth quarter. So that's a run rate of over $1 billion a year in adjusted property EBITDA, and their revenue for that period was 983 million. What's 17 million between friends? Let's call it $1 billion. So they're running at $4 billion a year US revenue at 25% adjusted property EBITDA margin, 200 extra tables. But MGM, in some ways, has been the story of 2024.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, aided...
Of 2023, sorry.
2023, yeah. Aided by an extra 200 tables, which certainly doesn't hurt. But also from talking to people in the industry that aren't at MGM but who know the property, there's been a lot of work done to better utilise the property, make sure that it's laid out better. So from what I'm hearing, MGM's done a very good job in a number of ways, and the result is all-time profitability records in Q4 and in full year 23.
But there, as always, in a hyper-competitive environment, which was what we have in Macau, and we also have in Manila too, by the way, there's always a bit of grumbling, and there's a bit of grumbling about some of the competitors to MGM about MGM, but we'll leave all that for another day. So as been said, we're here at Clark. We're here in the Atrium Lounge at Han Casino Resort. We're staying here for a few days, have a nice little, I wouldn't say holiday, we'll be working, but just nice to stay up here at the resort and meet our friends at Clark, and particularly at Han. We're going out with the team tomorrow night for dinner, and we'll be back in Macau over the weekend or very early next week for MAD on Tuesday.
Your voice has mysteriously improved right at the end of this on the run, by the way.
I think it's all the water I've been drinking.
Right, okay. So as Andrew said, look forward to a few days here in Clark, catching up on what's all been happening over the past few months since we were last here, and back to Macau for MAD.
It comes and goes. Like when there's work around, it gets worse. Anyway, we struggled through. Thank you, Ben, for carrying me a little bit through that MAD. Was the voice is pretty bad at the moment, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend. And we look forward to seeing many of you at MAD Sofitel Macau. Our great friends up there at Sofitel on Tuesday nights. And how long are you in Macau for, Ben?
About a week.
Right. So when do you go back?
Next Friday, whatever that date is, 29th.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to catch up with Ben while he's in town, get a hold of him next week, and he'll be able to catch up with you. And I'll be in town for a few weeks before the next run. This run is almost over. What do we got? We've got Clark, back down to Manila, Hong Kong, and then Macau. And you'll be in Macau for a week. I'll be in Macau for maybe 3 weeks, I think, before I hit the road again. So that's it. All right, mate. Have a good weekend, and see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Run.